valid and the thing is usher, or the neder is invalid and the thing is mutter that you're swearing about. This Mishnah doesn't say that. This Mishnah says you have to worry about violating the din of Baal Tachel, that you said something in vain. Okay, so Sydney is going to notice those unusual characteristics of this Mishnah, and Sydney would be right, and the Gemara is going to deal with all those issues. Well, I just tried to forestall you giving me a hard time by telling. Okay, let's go weiter. Painem shani yashan. Person makes a vow concerning sleeping, and I'm translating it that way intentionally. Okay. Oh, shani medaber, or he makes a vow concerning speaking. Oh, kainem sha'ani mahalech. He makes a vow, a konem neder, regarding walking. Okay. Or, and we said almost the same thing in a previous Mishnah. He makes a vow, ha'omer le'ishto, he says to his wife, kainem sha'ani ma shamshech. I am making a vow concerning intimacy between us. Okay? Tashmi Shamita. So in all these cases, again, it does not say mutter that these are not valid vows. It does not say heter, these are iser, these are valid vows. It uses an unusual lashon, harez below yachel devaro. He might possibly be violating the rule of do not desecrate your word, do not make a vain oath.
He said it's in vain.
Well, Sydney, I asked really good questions in your name. Let's leave it there. Okay. All right. So remember, I tried to point out, we learned in previous Mishnayos that it has to have mamashas. Okay. We're now going to, when we're going to struggle, because this Mishnah cannot mean what it superficially looks like. Because either we covered the topics already, which when the Mishnah does not repeat itself, except rarely where it'll throw in one word in a chain of words, okay, or it tells us one way or the other, and this Mishnah says you have to be worried about violating your oath. That's what the Mishnah explains. So let's try and understand the Mishnah. The Gemara is not going to grapple with trying to understand the Mishnah. Itmar, we have a brisa. Kainem ene b'sheina hayoy im ishen lamacher. If somebody makes a vow that has a tanai in it, okay? If my eyes are konim today. Now remember, notice that this time it's stuck in the word my eyes, which are something of mamashas. So the Gemara is going to anticipate, how can you make a vow and worry about whether it's a vain vow or not regarding sleep? Sleep isn't anything. So the Gemara immediately interprets the vow is a vow on his eyes. Okay? Kainem ene b'shena. I vow that my eyes will, closing my eyes in sleep today is my vow. I can't do that. Im yishen lamacher. If I happen to sleep tomorrow. So the first thing we have to notice is that the condition would be retroactive. In other words, it won't be until tomorrow till I find out if I violated my vow today. That's an issue we're going to raise. Omer, okay, Omer Rav Yehuda, Omer Rav. So Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, the guy, even though the guy says, I'm the vow on my sleeping today is conditional on my sleeping tomorrow, and we don't know exactly what that means. Well, we'll see. It's going to be a battle, okay? And Yashin Hayom. Rav says you cannot sleep today because if tomorrow you violate the Tanai, then retroactively sleeping today would be problematic. So he says, I don't care about tomorrow. You have to protect yourself against Bal Yachel by not sleeping today. So now we have a hint as to what the Bal Yachel is talking about. Okay. Al Yishen Hayom Shema Yishen Lamacher. You can't sleep today because of the possibility you might sleep tomorrow. V'Rab Nachman Aimer Yashen Hayom. You can sleep today because today is today and tomorrow's tomorrow, and we're not at tomorrow yet. And we don't take into account what might happen tomorrow. We deal with what happened today. And you said, I won't sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. So sleep. And who cares what happens tomorrow? Lo, chayshinan shema yishen lamacher. I'm not worried about your falling asleep tomorrow because it's not yet tomorrow. That's Reb Nachman. Now we throw a monkey wrench. Oh, my, the Rav Yehuda. And Rav Yehuda would acknowledge the Omer if the guy used the following lashon. Kainem eine b'shena lamacher im yishten hayom. If I say my not sleeping tomorrow is conditioned on my sleeping today. Okay, so he switched the conditionality, the Tanai, to today. So Yishen Hayom. Rabbi Yehuda would say, go ahead and sleep today. Now, just a minute. We just said Rabbi Yehuda won't let you sleep today if you said the reverse, because we're worried you might blow it tomorrow. So why aren't we worried now that you might blow it tomorrow? Because the conditionality is not retroactive. It's a simple commitment. Since I did sleep today, I'm making a simple commitment. I won't sleep tomorrow. And I think it's, I don't remember, Kedushin or somewhere, there's this kind of a vow comes up. And they ask, well, how can you avoid sleeping tomorrow? And it says you take a pin and you keep stabbing yourself. So, okay. So, kilo mizdaher. When do we, kilo mizdaher, when are we worried that the guy will not be careful to do tomorrow what's related, which is conditioned on today? When does that happen? But tonight. If it's a condition tomorrow that retroactively impacts today. Avo, the isura mizdaher. But if what I do today impacts what I cannot or cannot do tomorrow, we assume that you will, now it's no longer conditional. Now it's a solid commitment. Since I slept today, I cannot sleep tomorrow. So you'll be careful and you'll stay awake tomorrow. I have a bag of pins for whoever needs it. Okay. Now, but let's go. Now we're going to challenge. Yeah.
I'm not going to sleep tomorrow. And if I do sleep, just sleep for 30 seconds.
Then you have violated your word and you get malchus.
Hey, there's a shear. How much is the shear?
That'll come up in the Gemara. No, with regard
10 seconds, I'm over the vow.
Don't make the vow. That's why the Gemara, that's why the Mishnah said, the problem with such vows is you wind up coming up against violating the vow and violating your word.
He knows he ain't going to succeed doing it, yet he makes the vow.
That's a different case. No, you can succeed. That's going to come up in the Gemara. But to answer your question directly, if I make a vow that's impossible, I make a vow I'm going to fly person, I mean, not with an airplane or a helicopter. I'm going to flap my arms and fly from here to Yarmouth. That's not a vow. You can't vow the impossible. And that will come up with regard to sleeping. Give us a chance. Okay? Now, we're going back to our Mishnah, and we're going to raise problems with our Mishnah that give us conflicts with what Rav Yehuda tried to tell us. Tanan, the Mishnah says, Kainem sha'ani yashen, sha'ani mahalech, sha'ani medaber. The fact that it switched the order is not significant. It's simply a different girsa. Okay, I am making a vow regarding sleeping, a vow regarding walking, a koinem vow regarding speaking, etc. Hey, dummy, what did the guy actually say? Okay, what is the actual case? Okay, if you say that you translate the Mishnah as literally as possible, I am making a vow regarding my sleeping, meaning that I will not sleep. Okay, that's a problem, right? Shani yashen me have a nidra. Can I make a vow? We learned this 2 days ago. Can I make a vow that I will not sleep? Sleep doesn't have mamoshes. So you could make a shavua like that, but you couldn't make a neder. And a konem statement is called a neder. Okay, is that shani yoshen me have a nedra? Is that a real neder? V'hatzanya we learned a couple days ago in a brisa. Chaimer b'shavuos. That sometimes shvuos is stronger than nedarim. Shahashavuos chalas al diver sheyesh labo mamish v'al davar she'ein bo mamish. So you could make a shavua. I will not sleep today, bli neder, or bli shvua. Okay. Masha ein kain b'nedarim, but that formula doesn't work with nedarim. You can't make a neder regarding sleep or speech or traveling. Okay. Because none of those things are tangible. You can't put them on a scale and weigh them, or you can't hold them in your hand. So we have to immediately alter the Mishnah, so to speak, the way we did in the first explanation. Ela da Omer kainem einai b'shena. I am vowing my eyes will not close in sleep. So now the vow is on my eyes, not on the activity sleep. Okay, that's the first problem. Now Sid's issue. What if you made an open-ended vow or neder? I'm not going to, I simply make the following vow. I vow my eyes will never close in sleep. Okay, this Sydney asked earlier. It's totally impossible, correct? Oh, me, the kinan le ad the avar iser bal yachel. So do we let him make that vow? And do we consider it a valid vow? And then we gleefully sit there waiting for him. And maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's 3 days from now, but eventually the guy's going to involuntarily fall asleep. And we say, gotcha. And we give him malchus. Is that what we do? Is it a valid vow? What? Well, it won't keep him awake. Eventually he'll involuntarily fall asleep. Okay, so do we really let him try to maintain that vow until he involuntarily falls asleep? In other words, the question is that a valid neder? Okay, Ha'omer Rabbi Yochanan says an internally contradictory thing. Okay, so you have to sort of hold cup. Omer Rebbe Yochanan, Shavua Shalo Ishen Shlosha Yomim. If a guy makes a shavua that I will not sleep for 3 days or longer, Malkin oso v'yashen la'alter. We give him malchus immediately, and we send him to bed without supper.
Can I ask you something? Why do we say Shavua Shav and not Neder Shav? Why not that terminology?
I don't know. I mean, because we're now using the shvua formulation because it's easier to talk about. Oh, in general, because neder is both one type of vow, and it's also the chapter head for discussions of the 4 types of vows plus nedavas. Okay, that's why the Masechta is called Nedarim. We just use neder, kol nidrei, and then we go, okay, I'm not a chazan. And then we mention Shavuos, we mention the others. But neder is, in addition to one specific form, it is also the chapter heading for all the forms. If that answers you, that's the best I can do. Okay, so what is, can anybody answer me, what is the internal contradiction here?
So cannot step.
Okay, but I'm just looking at Rabbi Yochanan's words. What's the internal contradiction? We give him malchus and we send him to bed. If we give him malchus, that means it was a legitimate neder, and he was balta achel, he violated his neder, and he gets punished with malchus. But if we send him to bed, means it's not a valid neder. So why do they give him malchus? Exactly. So that's the internal contradiction. You have to chop that to chop the rest of the discussion. Okay? So we see that a neder that can't be met is not a neder, but apparently you're still over Baal Tachel.
You shouldn't have said it in the first.
Well, that's a possibility, but let's go weiter. Ella da Omar, so let's change the
Say that.
what?
He's going to get malchus for saying something which is.
No, he thinks I'm not going to get malchus because I made a non-neder. I said something impossible. It's not a neder. I'm going to fly home.
Implying to the people, listen, I'm saying this and this and this, and everybody looks at me.
Some vector.
If it's a neder and I violate it, I get malchus. If it's not a neder, I can't violate it and I don't get malchus.
So why is he going to bring it up in the first place?
Because we're going to teach you something new. Okay, if you let us get there. Okay? Now, so let's say we'll change the case a little bit. Okay, I am making now a conditional neder that I am koinem tomorrow. Did I go back? I'm koinem tomorrow if I sleep today. And that, according to our Mishnah, could bump up against violating your word. Okay? Ha Amar Kol Isure Mizdaher. But we just finished saying that where the prohibition is not retroactive, where we give the guy the benefit of the doubt and say he'll be careful about tomorrow. So that can't be what we're talking about. Ella Pshita da Aimer, so it becomes obvious that what the guy said was kainem eine b'shena hayom im ishen lamacher. I'm making the condition tomorrow and retroactive today, and I am barring myself from sleeping today if I sleep tomorrow. So I won't know whether I violated my oath or not if I sleep today until I sleep tomorrow. And that's the problem. So, ilo noyem hayom, if I do not sleep today, ki niyem lemacher ma'abal yachel devaroika. So if I do not sleep today, then who cares what I do tomorrow? I didn't sleep today. I can't retroactively violate having slept today. So that can't be what we're talking about. Elalav, b'denayim, he did sleep today. So now he sets up that he can't sleep tomorrow. Alma, he said denayim. Okay, so that is a tiyufta to Rav Yehuda, because Rav Yehuda said you can't do that, right? That's the first tiyufta to Rav Kahuna. We're gonna Rav Yehuda. We're gonna have a bunch of them. Edikatani, the niyem. If the Mishnah means that if I sleep today, then I can set up not being able to sleep tomorrow, and it's not conditional retroactively, it's conditional going forward. If that's what we're talking about, so Reb Yehuda would say, you're not allowed to sleep today, even though you said I can sleep today, because he doesn't want to create an environment where you could mess up. And that's what the Mishnah means when it says, if you make these kinds of vows, you lead yourself to messing up. Okay? That would be possibly an answer to why Reb Yehuda is not upshlog. But we're not finished with Reb Yehuda. Ravina Omer Liolam Kidetanin. We're sticking to the actual text of the Mishnah. My Bal Yachel, what would be the violation, Bal Yachel? And here is the answer, Sydney, Midrabanan. We had a hint to this earlier, when the guy says that sleeping with you is like sleeping to his wife. Sleeping with you is like sleeping with my mother. So that's an impossible neder, right? You're not allowed to sleep with your mother. The Torah tells you that. So that would theoretically be an impossible neder, and a Talmud Chacham would know that. But in Amma Oretz, we say he has to go to a Chacham and he has to cancel that neder with some other rationale. All right? If I knew she wasn't going to make me dinner anymore if I don't sleep with her. In other words, the Chacham has to question the guy. And we said over there that it was midrabanan. We didn't use that lashon, but we said we create this penalty of digging up a bezdin and coming up with an excuse, so the guy won't make impossible oaths carelessly. And Amaretz would tend to do that. So we got a hint earlier that there could be a drabanan penalty for a non-neder. And now we're explaining it explicitly, midrabanan, that it is indeed a penalty midrabanan. So the Gemara immediately pipes up, where'd you come up with that notion? Is there really that concept? Umi ika bal yachel midrabanan? Is there such a thing as bal yachel midrabanan? All right, you showed me that's a possible interpretation here. But if you can't buttress that argument with cases elsewhere, then I'm going to say that's not a valid interpretation here. So the Gemara says, hey, absolutely, there are examples elsewhere. V'hasanya, we have a brisa. Now, this is a little tricky also. If something is be'etzem mutter, but enough people treat it as not mutter, you're not allowed to tell someone in the presence of those people that it's mutter. So I'll just take a pet peeve of mine. If I and many other members of the shul have the chumrah of only using chalav Yisrael, the guy who sets out the coffee in the morning is not allowed to put out chalav stam and say you can use chalav stam. There's nothing wrong with it. Moshe says you can. That
Prerogative to decide whether you want to use it or not.
I'm only telling you what the Gemara says, Sydney. Okay, let's do it inside. The Sanya, and this will be the Rabbanan. No, this would be a restriction de Rabbanan. Let's look at it inside. V'hasanya, we have a brisa that says Devarim hamutarin, something like Chalav Stam. That the Chalav Stam is my addition, understand? But it works. Devarim hamutarin, something like Chalav Stam, which is technically mutter. Va'acherim nahagu behem iser. But other people prohibit themselves from using that thing, even though be'etzem it's mutter. I atarashai lahatirin bifneihem. You're not allowed to say that it's mutter in the presence of those people who don't eat or drink that thing. That's what it says. And I think my example holds up solidly. What? Bruchs is another example. I mean, there were 100 examples. Glatt versus Stam kosher.
Difference between just putting out the case of college trouble.
Putting it out means you're paskening that it's kosher.
It's kosher by my standards. It's not by yours.
I don't want to have this argument because it's insoluble. Okay, the Mishnah, the Gemara just said, I mean, what would be, to answer your question most directly, what would be the point of putting it out if I'm not allowed to let you drink it? All right, I mean,
If that's on you, you're allowed to drink it. If I put out.
you're telling the other people they are. If you say to me, look, I know you don't drink Chalav Yisrael, but everybody else in the room does, I'm putting out Chalav Yisrael. What you're effectively doing is putting up a little sign, this is kosher despite burr. And the Mishnah and the Gemara just said that's something you can't do. Again, I just use Chalav Yisrael because it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't want to have a debate.
And I go to a chaser and I ask him the following questions. Is this kosher? He says, yes, but I won't eat it.
Then I don't eat it. He's not allowed to do that. I have never gone to any catered event where it didn't immediately see something wrong and didn't eat, or I say to the mashgiach there, I want to see you eat the meat. I want to see you eat eat some of those lettuce leaves you claim you washed. And if the guy says, I only eat near b'teshchita, then I say to my wife, we can't eat. Okay? I mean, we went home on Sunday. We didn't stay for the Haknasa Sefer Torah because there was no mashgiach supervising the serving of food. And that's usher. The package is kosher, but once the seal is broken and it's put out to eat, you need a mashgiach. I don't know who these people are. What?
It's you, but the majority.
No, what I say is Sydney, I'm not so, okay, Chalav Yisrael, maybe I'm a little machmir. And Beis Yosef, maybe I'm a little machmir. But basic kashrus, I'm not a little machmir. I'm a little mekil on basic kashrus. But you can't do certain things.
Your standards.
No, according to Shulchan Aruch. I don't make up my own. All right, let's go weiter in the Gemara. Okay? So they were learning Daf Yomi. So, and why can't you tell the guy that's okay? Shenemar lo yachel devaro. It violates the lo yachel devaro, yet the stuff is kosher. So clearly that's an example where it's only midrabana. Okay, and that's the case. Oh, and that's the proof text to that you can say you're over Bal Yachel, even in a Darabana. Another that challenge to Reb Yehuda. Okay, Tanan, we have a Mishnah. Sha'at nehenes li ad hapesach im tach techli tech Talchi, I have dyslexia or something. Talchi lebeis avicha ad hachag. If I say to my wife before Pesach, you can eat nothing of mine between now and you can't have any hana from me of any way, shape, or form between now and Pesach, conditioned on you're not visiting your parents up till and including next Sukkot. So again, if she goes in August to visit her parents, retroactively, if she ate my food or slept in my house or rode in my car, she would be violated. Okay? So, what?
Divorce.
Halka lifnei Pesach. So if she happened to go visit her parents you made this condition on Hanukkah. So if she goes sometime between Hanukkah and Pesach to visit her tati, Asura Bahanaso Ada Pesach, from that moment on, she is violating Baltachel, and okay? Pesach, if she went to her father's house before Pesach, Asura, then retroactively she couldn't eat any or benefit in any way from her husband. Lo holcha, if she hasn't gone, lo, she's not violated anything yet. He said you're not allowed to visit your parents, and she didn't visit her parents, so there's no problem. So we see that we make this Pesach line, even though the Shvua is till Sukkot, okay, and thus
What she did to you.
she gets Malchus and from Malchus Mardus, from a Bezdin, because she violated the Rabbanan. We'll see. Okay, Omer Ravava, Pesach. If she actually said drop dead to her husband, not drop dead, but I'm not listening to you. How often does my wife say, I'm not listening to you more than 4 or 5 times a day? Okay. And she goes and visits her parents, Asura. Then retroactively, she's violated the rule, and everything she ate from Hanukkah till February when she made the visit was retroactively no good. Remember, Rabbi Yehuda said you can't do that. This is why it's a challenge to Rabbi Yehuda. And we give her Malchus. Okay? Veloika. Loholcha, but if she didn't yet go, but she may go in the future, Asura Bauma. It's only rabbinically prohibited for her to benefit, lest she retroactively violates. So we see that there is a derabanan baltachel, another case, right? So Ema Sefer, but let's look at that same Mishnah of the husband quarreling with the wife and making these weird nidarim. Okay, let's look at the end of that. Achar HaPesach, if after Pesach, but before Sukkot, she visits her parents, Bal Yachel Devaro, she violates, do not desecrate her word. The the law is Hane Lifnei Pesach. So if she had not benefited from her husband between the statement and Pesach, right? Mi'ika Bal Yachel. How did she violate anything? He said, if you ever go visit your parents between now and next Sukkot, you cannot benefit from me. And she says, fine, I'm moving in with the Peretskis. And she doesn't benefit from you whatsoever. How can she be over Baltachel? So Ella, Pshita, is Hane. So it's obvious that she ignored her husband and she continued benefiting from him, right? So Alma, Miss Hane, so we there, and if she then never goes and visits, she has done nothing wrong. So Alma Miss Hane. So we see that between now and Pesach, she may benefit from her husband because we don't care. We don't take into account in February what she might do in August. So that's a tiyufta to Rebbe Yehuda. Turn the page. Tiyufta to Rebbe Yehuda. So the Gemara tries to support Rav Yehuda, but it's not so solid. Katani de is hane hareze balt ya'achel tavaroi. If she did benefit from her husband before Sukkot, before Pesach, now she's subject to this restriction between now and next Sukkot to protect her from violating her word. Okay, his word, because he can command her. Husbands have that right. Tanan, another tiyufta to Reb Yehuda. Tanan, we have a previous Mishnah. Sha'at nehenes li ad hachag im teich li lebeis avicha ad Pesach. If the guy says to his wife, like at Hanukkah time, prior to Pesach, whatever you might benefit from me is forbidden to you by a kohenim neder until Sukkot, if you visit your father between now and Pesach. Okay, so we've changed the case. We reversed the case. She would be forbidden from Pesach to Sukkot if she visits before Pesach. Okay? So she visits before Pesach. Then from Pesach on, she can't participate or utilize or have any benefit from anything from her husband. But she can go visit her father because the neder didn't have anything to do with between Pesach and Sukkot. It only was before Pesach. Okay, so he must use stam matzah, and the husband only uses shmura matzah. Okay. Holcha, if she does go, then asura. Then she's from the moment she goes, even though he didn't say that, she is now usher to her husband's stuff. Lo holcha, if she doesn't go, lo, she's not forbidden. And again, what she might do in the future is irrelevant to her behavior now. And Rabbi Yehuda says, if you swear, if I sleep today, I won't sleep tomorrow, we don't let you sleep today because we don't want to put you in a position where you could blow it. So here we see a refutation to Rabbi Yehuda, another one. So Omar Rava explains, the afilu lo holcha surah. The actual din is once you set up this conditionality, she cannot benefit from you whatsoever from now on, lest she violate tomorrow. So that does support Rav Yehuda. Okay, holcha, but if she already went, asura v'loike, she was asur and she got malchus, and that was midiraisa now, not midirabanan. Lo holcha, if she doesn't go, asura ba'alma, then the prohibition of benefiting now is midirabanan, so that you don't create an environment where retroactively she would be in violation. Okay, that's yet okay. Meisvei. So we're going to try and challenge Rav Yehuda once more. Ki perzu alai hayom im elech lamakum ploni lamachar. If I visit Alan's apartment tomorrow, I can't eat this loaf of bread today. Again, it's a condition. So what would it mean? If I don't eat the bread today, I have no problem about visiting Alan tomorrow. If I do eat the bread today, then I can't visit Alan tomorrow, right? That's what it says. Okay. Aval, if I eat the bread today, harezeh bal yelech. So obvious, then I am obligated by my statement to not visit Alan on the morrow. Okay? Now, mi katani oichel, but look at the words. Kiker zu al hayom im do we use the word ochel in the present tense? Ochal katani. It's past tense, meaning he already did it. Okay? V'chi ochel harei bal yeled. Only if he ate it is he in violation of the obligation to not go visit. The obligation doesn't happen until after he eats it. Okay? So, what? I can't hear you.
He didn't even think about it. He just simply put something in it.
So that's a making a vow carelessly, and we already covered that. You would have to go to a mumcha or a bezdin of 3 and come up with an external rationale. If I had known my wife baked this bread specially for me and she's now pissed off at me, I never would have made the vow. You have to find an external rationale. We learned that with the, I'm not going to sleep with you anymore because you're like my mother. Okay. Usually they start looking like their mother, not like your mother. All right. So Holech, what if the guy does go visit Alan tomorrow? Okay. So he did violate Bal Yachel Devarai. All right. So Kasha Reb Yehuda. So again, Reb Yehuda would say you're not allowed to deal with that bread. Put it in a safe, lock it up. So here it's a Kasha Reb Yehuda. It's a problem for Reb Yehuda. Amalach Reb Yehuda would answer you a dikduk answer. Hu hadin lisnei mehalech. Therefore, the Mishnah the Brisa should have said, he may go to visit that person if he doesn't eat it. It's a future tense. I did the Katani Resha Ochel. Since the first clause teaches past tense, he ate it, right? Lo masne le Ochel. You can't say he may eat it because technically he's allowed to eat it. The only thing would happen is he'd kick in that he can't go to Alan for dessert tomorrow, but he could eat the bread today. That's not a problem. Tani Sefer Holech. Therefore, the last clause says if he went, he violates. Okay, so that would how Reb Yehuda would wiggle out of this breaks his principles. Next case. Okay, going back to the Mishnah. Now remember, you're not allowed to make an oath on something that violates the Torah. Okay, a neder. If I make a neder, this cup of coffee is like a korban to me, then I can't drink the coffee. But if I make an oath, I won't put on tefillin tomorrow. The Torah requires me to put on tefillin. That would not be a valid neder. So what is the last example in the Mishnah? The last example in the Mishnah was Ha'omer le'isha kainem sha'ani meshamshe. I am making a kainem vow that I can't sleep with you. Can anybody tell me what's wrong with that without looking ahead? What? The husband is obligated to give his wife intimacy, depending on where he works and how long he's away from home. Could be even every day. Certainly it's every Friday night, unless he's lucky enough to be on a boat. Okay, so we had that. V'ho mishtabed lo midiraisa. The Torah requires him to give her the level of intimacy she requires or demands. Okay, Dichsiv, because we have pasuk, she'erek susa va'onasa lo yigra. He cannot withhold from her. What? He cannot withhold from her, or they translated to me, she cannot not do his husbandly duty, which is feed, clothe, and intimate.
You refuse intimacy, he gets Malchus?
Yeah,
Not the case.
I'm not interested in your personal issues, Robert. Okay, okay. So
Okay.
what would now? Here's what the guy says. But Omer Hanaas Tashmishech a lie. The guy says, not I won't sleep with you. But the guy says, I am making a coin name that I cannot enjoy intimacy with you. So now it has nothing to do with her. It has to do with him.
And no mamashas. How can you make something with no mamashas?
No, it has mamasha. I don't know. You're right. You're right. All right. So leave that up. But the point is the hanor of sleeping with you, I am prohibiting to myself. Okay, that's what he says. So maybe he mentions a body part. Okay, I don't want to go there. All right. So now he's not saying, I won't sleep with you. He's saying, I can't sleep with you because I enjoy it. And I just committed myself to not enjoying intimacy with you. Okay? So even though you can't forbid, I'm reading from the English, even though you can't forbid your spouse from benefiting, in other words, I can't take away from her right of honor, but I can make a vow on myself. Okay, whether I'd have to give her a divorce or something is another issue. Okay, the Omer Rav Kahana, because Rav Kahana spelled it all out. Tashmishe olecha, if the woman says to her husband, I'm making a vow, I will never sleep with you again. So then we get the bedroom police, the kaifin oisai umeshamshitai. We make her, the Torah doesn't recognize marital rape. If she says, I refuse to sleep with you, he's allowed to force her because that's her wifely obligation. Okay. But if she says, I can't have fun in bed with you. I cannot benefit from being in bed with you. Then she's not allowed to sleep with him anymore. Then it's usher because she's not making it on him. She's making it on herself. Okay, that's a little tricky, but that's Rav Kahana's perspective. She'en ma'chilin lo la'adam davar asur lo. Because, and this is the basis of his principle, you can't force someone to eat something that they won't eat. That's usher to them. You can't stand there and open my mouth and pour chalav stam in. Since Sydney doesn't like my chalav stam. Okay, we'll stop there and we'll pick up tomorrow at the next Mishnah. Okay, and have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. I'm assuming we'll meet tomorrow, but if the wind is over like 45 miles an hour, maybe we should consider Zooming. Okay, enjoy your day, everybody. Stay safe. Mel is a tzaddik, so God is going to have to listen to him. We had it in this last week's parsha, right? Where Abraham said, we'll be back. So God couldn't let him kill Yitzchak.
Correct. Thank you very much.
It's a little tricky today, but I think I tried to explain it clearly. Was Ruben on?
Oh. a good question.
Decide, Robert.
It's too late. Everybody's off.
Okay, yeah.
But do you know who was on?
No, who was on?
Because Ruben wasn't here. And he hasn't been feeling well.